Hi everyone, I'm JessGOAT.
And I'm Pengu.
And you guys are watching
Beyond the Siege.
That's right, we have a podcast now.
We'll be talking everything esports.
And also interviews.
And game updates.
Plus tournaments, teams, players, devs, etc.
So everything Rainbow Six?
Damn straight.
And when do we begin?
How about now? Alrighty guys, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Siege. My name is JessGOAT. I'm joined by my usual colleague of Pengu. We have a very special guest here for episode number 2. If you joined us in episode number 1, we had Fabian, and now we are across the world with another guest known as Terdsta. Terdsta, please introduce yourself to the world, especially for those who might not watch Siege and know exactly all the players. And also, selfishly, I want to know your whole story and how you got to be where you are. So please tell us.
I'm Terdsta. I play for Bleed Esports. I've been playing in Pro League for around a year and a half, but I've been playing the game for 8 years, since I was 11 years old.
So, 11? How old are you now?
19, nearly 20. So yeah, I started playing the game in the beta on PlayStation, on console. So like the first 4 or 5 years, I was just playing like casual, even Terrace, and I actually thought Terrace Hunt was the main game mode at the start of the game. I would literally get on every day, go drone the bots in Terrace Hunt, red scan them, and just wallbang them. I thought that was so fun. I probably thought it was the main game mode for like the first 3 months of the game. No joke. So after I finally learned what the real game was, then I started grinding ranked a lot on console with my friends. Like I would literally run home after school every day. I remember 3 p.m. I would finish, and like 3:15 I'd be at home. I'd sprint home to play. So this was probably when I was around 15 years old. I started playing on PC. I was a brick on mouse and keyboard. Like playing on a controller for, I've been playing COD as well since I was like 4 years old. So at that point in my life, I had like 10, 11 years on a controller. So I was literally a brick on a mouse and keyboard. I couldn't do anything. The first few seasons really rough on PC. But after like a year and a half, I started getting pretty good. Played with top champions, played with Pro League players in APAC. Doesn't mean too much, but
come on.
that was a cool
That
was a cool achievement for me. I turned 18 in 20. Why do I not know?
Oh boy.
I turned
These guys
18
make us all seem
in
old.
2022.
Okay, 2 years ago-ish?
Yeah.
Because you turned 20 when you said, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, turned 18 in 2022. I had one team offer in ANZ, and I honestly thought I would have a lot more because I was like the #1 champ. I was making a lot of like friends in Pro League and stuff, but I had one offer, one trial actually, which I flunked out on as well. I played really terrible in the trial. Because it was either like go pro or go to university or something.
Isn't it the usual pipeline? It's like, either I make it or I just go to uni. Like that's what everyone's doing these days.
Yeah.
So.
Around the same time as well, like Mentalist from the Tide roster. Huge name in APAC.
Yes.
An OG.
The first pro I ever casted all the way back in 2018 was Mentalist. So that shows you how long Mentalist has been in the APAC scene.
He's definitely an OG, a veteran of the scene. So at that time, he was like finding a roster to rebuild or something, and the players he was rebuilding with and like building a project with kind of sucked, but they had...
Sorry if that was you, by the way.
They had the org backing of Bleed, which at the time no one knew. Me, Hoven, Reaps, and our other friend Asfi at the time, we pitched the idea to Hysterics and
another
Mentalist.
OG, yeah.
We pitched the idea of us four joining to both of them. And I think because Reaps just had like a crazy MVP season, they went flawless in stage 3. And he put up crazy numbers at the Yonkaping Major.
Yeah.
I think that was like a big selling point for us as a 4-man core to get signed by Bleed. Eventually got picked up by Bleed, joined the Southeast Asia League, the Blast Southeast Asia League, which was awesome. We all went out to Singapore to play the stage 1. Unfortunately, we did not qualify to the, what was it at the time? Copenhagen Major, the first major under Blast. And that off-season was rough. That was like a 5 months off-season for us because we couldn't qualify to EWC. Like we had no qualifier in our region. So we spent like the time after stage 1 all the way to stage 2 was like 4.5 months or something. That was
Wow. Because I assume Bleed was with you throughout that whole off season, and
Yeah.
so throughout that you're getting the support of an organization that's putting in this investment, hoping that you're going to in the future make these events. So you have to kind of deliver something eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And for those who don't know, because even my memory wanes at every event, how did you place at these events that you did manage to qualify at? I know it's a hard question, but we've got to ask. Everyone's got to know.
In Atlanta, we went in as one of the lowest seeds because we came out of an LCQ on 2nd place out of the Southeast Asia region, you know, which put up some of the worst results in the first half of that year. So we were super underdogs coming into that event. Even after getting out of groups, we were still like, we're probably going to get smoked in phase 2. It's not looking good. And then our first matchup was against like M80 or something, like a huge org with 5 superstar name players.
Yeah.
We were pretty much all thinking we were going to go home like 0-3 and go home in a few days. We actually ended up beating M80, which was crazy, in a BO1 or something. We went 1-0 on the day, on the Swiss phase, and we were so excited. Like, every single round we beat M80, we were screaming at the top of our lungs like we just won the SI. That was the craziest match of our lives. The next day, I think we had to verse like Sonics or something, another NA team, and another like 5 superstar, like Hall of Fame Sieges roster. So we were like, okay, well, we already got lucky yesterday. I don't think we can get lucky 2 days in a row, but let's just play and see how it goes. They ended up taking us to like Skyscraper or something, like one of our statistically best maps ever. They got smoked on that map as well. So we beat Sonics, we went 2-0 in the Swiss, and at that point, I think that was our biggest downfall, going 2-0 in Swiss actually. Because after we got lucky 2 times in a row, then we were like, oh, maybe we are one of the best teams in the world, maybe we can compete. The next game after that was like FaZe or something, and I don't know what was going through our heads at that time, but we decided to take them to the same map that we took M80 to 2 days earlier and use the exact same strats we used 2 days earlier.
Okay.
And we thought we would beat them
mistake,
again.
nice.
Yeah, it happens.
Especially against FaZe, like such a veteran roster that get top 4 at almost every event.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we got smoked in that game. But that game we didn't stand a chance. The next game was against Dark Zero as well.
Yeah.
We ended up going like 7-8 against him or something, which was
good.
crazy. Yeah, like, we're literally 1 round away, and I think like 1 kill away or something, like 1v1 away from beating them and getting into phase 3, which is crazy. So after that series, like we're losing 7-8 in an elimination or promotion game is probably the worst. Like, I'd rather lose 0-7 than lose 7-8 to someone.
I agree.
That's like knowing you're 1 round and like you start thinking about every gunfight that you had, every like scenario that you were in that you could have won your team
All
the
the
round.
details.
Yeah.
And like it's just in your head all night, and we have to play a game the very next day. We ended up getting versed against SSG, I think. That was a really close series as well. Like on the 3rd map, we was like concert or something. 3rd map we trolled like a 5v2. It was a very fair game until we trolled that 5v2. We trolled that 5v2, over. The game's over.
When
Like,
it's over in your head, the game's going to be over soon.
it was gone.
So you got knocked out from that game.
Yeah. So
That
we
game against SSG.
yeah,
Okay.
SSG. Knocked out by SSG, remember
Fair
that one.
enough,
Yeah, I remember that as well.
That is
How long ago was Atlanta now?
Oh boy.
nearly 9-10 months ago or something like that.
That era, yeah.
Okay, so there's been what, Atlanta, and then the next event was.
Next event was SI, which
What
I
about,
think
What about SI? Where are we placing at SI?
SI was our first event with Julia. So one of the problems we had as well in Atlanta.
New coach, by the way. New coach.
Yeah, world champion Julia.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the big problems we had at Atlanta was like we were just outclassed in like the strats we had.
Okay.
And just the experience we had as well, because 2 of us were playing our first event, and the other 2 got grouped at their first events, so they didn't have much experience playing either.
How did things go with the imposition of the new coach? Where, I mean, placement isn't everything. I do want to state, this is me efficiently talking about SI as best I can. The placement, where did you end up between 20th and 1st, or whatever the scoring is
we
now?
ended up 9th to 11th, which on paper is the same placement as Atlanta, but if you look at the group we had the 2x major winner W7M, we had M80, Liquid, and Virtus Pro. That was by far the group of
the
death.
group of death was...
Yeah. And we actually got out of it. We got out of it in 4th place, but we had more wins in 3rd place,
All the classic shenanigans
yeah.
there, yeah.
Love it.
So going into like Manchester, we were in a pretty like high mental state. We were really happy with our performance, and you know, if we keep improving at a steady rate, then we would be like top 8 in no time, pretty much. So that was our mindset, like from SI to stage 1. We were really proud of ourselves. We weren't thinking about roster changes at all. We were very happy with what we achieved as a team.
I want to pick, I know we have some other topics, and I definitely want to pick your brain about other topics, and I could see Pengu wanting to jump in about another topic.
You talked about dominance in APAC domestically, going 7-0s and only losing to Fury pretty much, right? What do you do efficiently in practice then? Because if you can't scrim your opposition in Fury, do you scrim terrible teams all the time? Do you focus more on theory, for example? What's your approach to being good domestically to then go to international tournaments?
So in APAC, the scrim quality, like in general, the scrim quality is quite low.
Yeah.
It's either ping. Ping's a big issue for a lot of teams. A lot of teams don't like scrimming on ping, so they won't scrim you. A lot of teams just play worse on ping. And then apart from ping, there's also like a smaller player base. So all the leagues are very top heavy, like South Korea, Japan, even our region, SEA, OCE, all top heavy.
Yeah.
So there's probably like 8 teams that you can get good practice against, and the rest of the 30-something teams are just very average, you know?
Yeah.
You're just like, you might as well just play ranked at that point. We didn't know what weaknesses we had because we were just smoking everyone. Even if our strat failed strategically, we would just outgun them and win the round still anyway. I think a lot of that just comes down to like maybe being complacent of being the best, and like also just smoking everyone. If we were getting smoked like very often, then we would like VOD view and like fix the problem instantly. But
so you think it's ego more than anything else? Because I feel like there's
definitely
conscious and subconscious practices, right? Subconscious, you're just logging on, you're doing your thing, you log off, whatever. Conscious practice, you go, today the goal is, and you train with that in mind, basically. You have a goal in front of you. You guys are just aimlessly plowing through the opposition, basically. You didn't have to worry about goals.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when we had less resources, like when we only had Bruce as our coach before Julia. Especially at that time, like we were not focused on improving one thing in each scrim. We were just playing to play, really. And even stage 2, we were just playing to play. Like, it was a really bad practice habit, and we just never had the discipline to like check ourselves on that, pretty much.
So there's scrim bleed, there is official game bleed. How you guys play in international tournaments? Do you feel like that represents how good you guys actually are, or is there more to desire from how you do in practice, for example? Because I know from PSG, right? We bombed out this event massively. Yeah. We do so much better in scrims, for example. Do you feel like you guys have a similar story, or is it the real you on stage or in pro games?
I think the closest thing to our scrim performance is when we're playing BO1s.
Okay.
A lot of people on Twitter and Reddit like to call us the BO1 merchants, but it's just kind of true to an extent, you know? Like, I think like the closest to our 100% is when we're playing the BO1s, because we know like we have no stress on our shoulders. We have full freedom in BO1s. We don't care. So that's like where we're closest to playing our peak. I think when it starts like getting to the elimination games, BO3s, whatever it is, when we start putting pressure on ourselves, that's when like we're not playing at all like in scrims. And that's, I guess you can say the same for like most teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we know a lot about that with the PSG TALON boys, because you can see the moment they start to get stressed in the server, and you're like, this might not be headed. Speaking of, you probably hear a bunch of noise behind us. We've tried to muffle this as best as possible, but the EWC event behind us is cranking it all hours of the day pretty much. So I want to ask your opinion on EWC. I've been, around Riad multiple times. Is this your first time in Saudi?
Yeah, this is my first time in Saudi. This is by far the best event I've been to. I've only been to 3 events as a player, 4 total events as a player.
Some people have never been to
It's a pretty big deal to it,
yeah.
actually.
But this is like by far, this blows everything else out of the water. Even in SI, like I would say I'd rather come to Saudi to play at EWC than go to an SI even.
Wow.
That's a crazy statement to say.
That is a crazy statement.
That's getting clipped, going on Reddit, got you. What do you think makes it the best for you?
I think, like, especially as a player,
I've seen the player lounge, so I know what kind of luxury you're living in.
Snacks are good.
Yeah.
The player hotel, the player lounge is crazy. Like 5-star, 10 out of 10 hotel, insane. The catering at the at the
This is what
hotel
I heard,
restaurant.
I heard about the catering.
Insane. 10 out of 10. I've never like experienced better food in my life, and such a different like. There's so many variety of food at the player hotel as well. It's crazy. As well, like the way that we get treated in and around the hotel when we're wearing a player badge is like, I don't know, it makes us feel like we're royalty. It's crazy.
Okay, fair enough. You know, Pengu, you know what we got to talk about?
What?
I want to approach a subject that literally just popped. So I don't know when you guys are going to be watching this. Maybe it's old news then. But the whole China thing, I learned from you.
Oh yeah, you informed all of us about the whole Ubisoft approval with the siege in China, etc. Now it's far ways away probably for like the finalization, but this is something that's been going on for a long time, right?
Yeah. So with China and siege, I was 11 years old at the time, so I'm not completely sure. I might get fact checked in the comments, but at the start of the game, I believe China allowed siege, and it was fine. They even had their own Pro League circuit, I think, or their players were allowed to play up until like 2019, 2020, and then the game was completely banned. Not allowed to stream, no Pro League circuit. Players aren't allowed to play from China at that point. And yeah, that pretty much went on all the way until now. It only just got approved to be streamed and played in China in 2024, August 1st. So very, very recently.
Wow.
And that just opens like a whole new, that opens the doors to 1.5 billion potential new players, which is crazy to think about. Crazy to think about considering like, there's only one Chinese player in the entire Pro League circuit right now. That's Reaps96, who also happens to be a top 10 player in the world right now.
Yes.
And now his entire nation has been allowed to play the game. It's kind of scary to think about what the international majors might look like in 1-2 years when everyone catches up.
Look, I know there's a bunch of Chinese players here at the moment for, is it Honor of Kings? Is that the game that pops off in the region?
Yeah.
From what I heard, on average, the viewership is like in the millions.
Yeah.
Like per stream, we're not even talking about on average for the total event, you know, that happens for Siege. We're talking about per stream, per game, there are millions of viewers for these games. Is that a possibility for us in Siege? Like, can we achieve that kind of audience? It's Bilibili streaming platform, is it, that does it? Okay, so is this, can we tap into this?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping the game expands into China market, and hopefully by like 2025, 2026, I hope they have their own Pro League circuit, their own Pro League players, and yeah, I hope the game just goes through the China ecosystem, really.
You do realize that you're gonna lose out on Reaps, right, if that happens? He's gonna say, bye-bye, Terdsta, I'm gonna go over here.
Nah, I'm learning Chinese, I'm following him.
It's time to learn Chinese, buddy.
Would you actually, if someone said, if you learn Mandarin and we'll pick you up, would you do it? Because people are learning English, obviously.
Yeah, people went to Korea and stuff like that, Jax.
So, then this is getting filmed, this is getting published. Would you learn Mandarin?
If Reaps ever does leave us, and he wants me to come with him, but I have to learn Chinese, I'll learn Chinese to go with him. I do not want to verse Reaps96.
So any Chinese orgs or representatives out there wondering whether or not there are international players who, especially experienced players with LAN experience that are looking to maybe bolster your team, there's some big brains here who are willing to learn the language and fly on over, which of course you've seen PSG TALON, you know, try and mix languages as well over time. So this is very doable. So I'm trying to sell you because I want to sell the Chinese region to come into Siege and do big things.
We're all benefit if it happens, right? That's the bigger
right?
story. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Tur, you said that here you feel like you've been treated like a celebrity, a famous person. You said in the beginning of the podcast that you had this like silly dream and like this story about what if you played majors with my buddies, right? Do you realize that you're actually doing it now? Has that like kicked in yet? You are at majors, you are at EWC, you're playing internationally, you're making top 10 positions, etc. Has that actually snapped in your brain and gone, I actually made it? I think like it never really crossed my mind until I go back home and tell my parents like the things I've been doing, and they're just amazed. Like, and especially telling like the older generation, like my grandmother, like they can't even like fathom like what I've been doing with my life, like playing video games for a living. That's crazy. Yeah.
Okay,
no one could imagine that as a career path, like. Until very recently, the last 10 years.
I'm going to echo what Nick just said. You have made it, so I don't want you to go home at any point and think, well, because I've never been top one, I've never made it. You have made it. top 10 is making it. I really
Yeah.
want to push that. Making events, number one, is very difficult. Making top 10 of events is critically almost impossible for a lot of teams, and players will never even attend events, let
Exactly.
alone make top 10. So this is a star we're trying to bring to your screens who should be known. But what is the future of Terdsta? Where do we go from here?
Winner's eye, lift the
Winner's
hammer.
eye, what's
come on.
Here we go. I'm going to give you a rendition of what the future of Terdsta looks like. Hold it up, both hands.
Is that a dream for you one day, or is that too distant to dream about?
I think setting goals is good, but the way I set goals, I want it to be like a ladder. And
Yeah.
I think the rung I'm at right now, I've just hit top 8. So the next step on my ladder, getting top 4, and then just keep moving up from there.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump too far ahead and like set a goal of winning an SI or winning a major. It's always in the back of my head, especially when we're playing better and better every tournament. But the very next goal for me is getting top 4 in an event. And hopefully I can do that in Montreal.
Ooh, well, we're setting the pace for what is to come. Do you want any final words for the viewers to know about you? Also, maybe a note about Chinese Siege, because I kind of want us to be ahead of the curve here. You were the one, like I said, that informed all of Twitter about, that's how I even knew it was even happening, about the whole Chinese Siege scene, of course. I want us to keep that in our minds and really push for that if we can. But what does the world need to know about you? What do you want them to think when they leave the end of this podcast?
Yeah, well, I have no idea what to say.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I mean, to our supporters, like, thank you for supporting us. We really do see, like, every positive message that gets sent to us. So we really appreciate the fans, friends, family, everyone that supports us. Like, we're super grateful. Even if we don't reply to every fan that does comment towards us, we definitely do see it and we appreciate it. So thanks to the fans, friends, family, everyone that supports us, and keep an eye out for us at the next event, hopefully in Montreal.
Final thoughts, Nick?
It was nice talking to you, Turd. I mean, we actually had a conflict once on social media where it's like, bit of banter, a little bit of shit talk, and
What was it?
I don't recall the exact situation, but like I think I messaged you or vice versa. Like we cleared it up, and it was like, okay, there's more to you than just this like trash talking ego kid in the server, because we understand that in the server you're the best player in the goddamn world, and you have to believe that, right? But you also have a good head on your shoulders, in the real world. So
Yeah.
happy to see you at this event, and hopefully again, as you said, in the future.
See, you can have banter and shit talk, ladies and gentlemen, and then you can also sit in a podcast together and talk about just the world of Siege and what that means to you and everything. So just goes to show that it doesn't have to go outside of Twitter unless you make it that way, so don't do that. Final thoughts are, number one, if you have tuned in throughout all of it, thank you so much. Follow the socials, PSG, TALON, R6 on Twitter, TikTok, everywhere else, I don't know. But most importantly, we want you to walk away from this podcast remembering 3 things. Number one, keep your ego in check. Terdsta's already walked you through how to do that. Go back to the start. Climb the ladder rung of competitive. If you want to learn how to do it, I'm sure Terdsta wouldn't mind answering any of your questions in DMs on Twitter. Don't inundate him, but if you have any small questions, I'm sure he would be happy to answer. And then thirdly, Chinese Siege. If you are a Chinese Siege player or an up-and-coming one, we would love to see the comments below about what you will think will happen with the Chinese Siege. So please let us know, but it's been a pleasure to have you, Terdsta. Thank you so much. And of course,
Thanks so
Nick,
much,
as per
guys.
usual, my dude.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next episode. And if you have a new guest you would like to see, let me know.